Did you give a grade out to the Blue Jays for their trades? What did you do?
Didn't formally give a grade, but I felt like this was a very Blue Jays type of deadline where they addressed all the things that they needed. They didn't necessarily get the names that people were linking them to, but they paid a reasonable price in prospects where, you look at some of the other deals that were made in the market and, they avoided the volume prospect type of deal with a lot of one for ones, two for twos. And they got a piece with some long-term control in Louis Varland, who's got a chance to be a factor for an extended period. So it was a very Blue Jays type of deadline, and I had to give it a grade. I think it's probably like a B plus. They got their needs. Maybe they could have done a little bit more on the offensive side and added a bit more impact there. But I think in terms of addressing their pitching, I mean, they did that, and to some degree, a lot of this will depend on what version of Shane Bieber they get back as well.
Yeah, and you look at Shane Bieber to add to their rotation, which they were last year. They were speculating on kind of having a fire sale, getting rid of some of those guys at the deadline because of some injuries and some trouble going up to the deadline. But they didn't do anything. They kind of stayed pat, and they added this winter and they added this trade deadline. What can you say for that front office to kind of stand true to what they believed in with this young core that's finally staying healthy and preparing and playing well this year?
Yeah, I mean, Lance, this is exactly the outcome they were hoping for, right? When they had the sell-off last year, they held on to everybody who wasn't an expiring free agent, except for Isaiah Kiner Falefa, and they just really liked Charles McAdoo, the player they got back from the Pirates in that deal. So that led to that trade. But they wanted to reset. They wanted to restock the upper levels of their farm system, and it's really worked out to where they've gotten the bounce back. George Springer has been a big part of this. Alejandro Kirk has been a big part of this. And then contributions from guys who had been on the roster have taken a step forward, be it Ernie Clement or Nathan Lucas. Mal Straw's new to the team. He's been an important factor. Joey Luperfido, and while he was with the Blues before he got traded, Will Wagner, they had their moments contributing to the club. So they really had the almost dream scenario where you sell off your pieces because one year goes totally sideways on you, but you stay with the plan and are able to turn it around the next year and put yourself in a position to buy.
Shane Bieber. He hasn't thrown a big league pitch this year. What are they expecting him to come out and do his first couple starts? Are they expecting him to go out and go 7 innings? Or are they looking at 5 innings, build him up, and hope he can be somewhat successful in that role?
It's a little bit of a moving target there, AJ, in that they understand he's coming off TJ, but his last couple rehab outings, including one yesterday with AAA Buffalo, have gone really well. And he was talking about targeting 5 innings, 70, 75 pitches. He was too efficient for his own good, so he ended up in the low 60s in that one. But presumably the next time, the pitch would probably be 6 innings, 70, 75 pitches. And as long as there's no hiccup physically, really, right now, it's just a volume game for him and trying to build up that stamina in order to be able to haul innings. And I think the big question is, how are they going to integrate him into the rotation once he is ready? He's got about just under 2 weeks left in that rehab assignment. As long as there's no hiccups, you're talking about a mid-August entrance into the Blue Jays rotation. And so, are they going to a six man? Is someone taking a break for a little bit? I don't foresee anyone going to the bullpen under that scenario. How do they handle that? And then I think you want to have a little bit of runway with Bieber just to see how is he performing, how is he bouncing back, because ideally you want him pitching in a postseason series, assuming the Blue Jays get there. So I think a lot of that is still to be determined based on how the next few weeks play out. But I think right now he's on a trajectory to carry some innings for this team.
Yeah, I loved the move because you also can't make major deals the rest of the way here. We don't have the waiver deadline anymore. So if you do take a hit to your rotation, and injuries happen all the time with arms, you've got an extra guy here. And that extra guy, like you said, if he's good, is going to start a playoff game for them. So that's my next question. If Bieber is back to his normal self when he comes back to the bigs, what do you think the playoff rotation looks like for the Blue Jays in a short series, in a best of five?
Yeah, so this is actually funny, Scott, because I was having this conversation with some colleagues last night and a little bit this morning too. And, there's a part of me that's like, they may have their hands tied a little bit because they may need games 159, 60, 61, 62 to secure that playoff spot. And they may just have to roll out based on who's fresh, right? So some of this conversation may be moot, but you obviously want Bieber as part of that mix. Kevin Gosman's got to be part of that mix. And then you look at it, it's like, if Max Scherzer continues to look the way that he has of lately, like, do you not want him and all that experience and all that fire in your rotation? And then, but Chris Bassett and Jose Barrios are two essential guys who have gotten you there. How do you sit those guys out? Chris Bassett is someone who can is versatile enough that he can come out of the bullpen if you need. And like, just judging by the Blue Jays in the last few times they've been in the postseason, they always look to do something creative with their rotation. And whether it's having a guy handle half a game and then moving someone else in later the game, there's a lot of creativity there. So maybe to some extent, guys are pitching to figure out how it's going to line up. But assuming they have some flexibility, I think there'll be a lot of matchup that goes into it as well.
Yeah, it's a good point on some of the starters moving to the bullpen in the playoffs. Do you think that was part of the process in their minds for not seeking out one of those big, high leverage relievers? I know they picked up some help there, but did you feel like they should have gone for it and acquired one of those high leverage arms or been in conversations for one of those big boys? I mean, it's not necessarily Mason Miller in the 4.5 years of control, but there were plenty of other arms that, were able to land with teams where they're going to be probably 8th or 9th inning guys. Do you think that they should have been, thinking about October with some of these moves more?
Well, I do. I think they were, but I also think that they addressed it in their own way, right? Like, I think to a certain extent, if you look at let's use Duran for example, like the Blue Jays didn't really have a package that lined up with that. Like, once if Mick Abel's in the deal, like, I don't think the Blue Jays had a piece that's on the verge of big league ready from a pitching perspective like that with the type of potential that they could surrender. So I think to some degree it was they maximized, and this is typical of their deadlines, is that they use the pieces that they want to trade away, the guys who maybe they feel aren't guaranteed to be a part of their future down the road, and then try to make the best deal using those prospects. And so there's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B there, but could they have added another leverage reliever? I think that probably would have been great for them. Jimmy Garcia is, to some extent, Sir Anthony Dominguez replaces Jimmy Garcia. Louis Varland adds another piece. But if you get one more guy, now you're really deep in the bullpen. But that one didn't work out, and I think the Blue Jays need to hope that the cortisone shot that Jimmy Garcia recently received in his elbow, takes, and he's able to come back and be Jimmy Garcia. Because if Garcia can factor into this bullpen, then that's a huge difference.
Kratz, there are a lot of people out there that pay rent and they don't get anything for it.
Might as well change that. You can get some rewards for flights, hotels, tons of stuff.
With Built, you can earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards airlines, hotels, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and much more. It doesn't stop there. Built is about making your entire neighborhood more rewarding. You can dine out at your favorite local restaurants and enjoy experiences just for Built members every month. They're turning a monthly expense into an opportunity to earn rewards and discover the best that your neighborhood has to offer. Your rent is finally working for you. Earn points on rent and around your neighborhood, wherever you call home, by going to joinbuilt.com/foul. That's joinbilt.com/FOUL. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/foul. Go for it.
You see the Red Sox overtake the Yankees in the standings. The Jays haven't been playing quite well as of late. Looks like there's going to be a nice push for who's going to be the number one spot here in the East. What do you see from the Jays to maybe right some of what's been going on and what can maybe push them for the division title?
Yeah, I mean, they're having the kind of lull that, you know, some people around the team was like, this is coming at some point because they were so hot for a couple months there, and uh, they were sort of due for a blip, but they've been to me the thing that stuck out. They've been uncharacteristically sloppy in the field, right? Like the series in Baltimore against the Orioles, especially. That was they just didn't look like themselves, right? This is typically a team that's clean defensively, does a pretty good job of executing in a number of different ways, and that hasn't been there. And, the past few days, they've just been a little bit colder offensively, minus George Springer, who's dealing with a concussion. And they had been without Alejandro Kirk, who just returned on yesterday from the concussion IL as well. So I think that there was some hope that Springer could be ready for them, if not tomorrow, then the day after that. Uh, that would be a big boost for the lineup. If they start hitting again, getting back to offensive production, that will obviously be something that will carry them. But they've generally had pretty good pitching and been able to take care of the ball. And they get back to that, then I think that we'll start seeing the Blue Jays play a bit better than they have over the past week.
Shy, what about Eric Lauer? You didn't even mention him. He's pitching tonight. He's doing all right. Why don't we talk about Eric Lauer?
Man, honestly, he does not get enough praise because when he came up, was it late April, early May, and he was a lifesaver for this team when they were trying to figure it out in this rotation. I mean, they went essentially 2 months without a fifth starter, kind of making it up as they went along, and Lauer just kept pitching better and better and better, and really forced himself into that fifth starter spot, and that was great because just as Max Scherzer was ready to return, Bowden Francis, who had been struggling, had been grinding through an impingement in his shoulder. That got to the point that he couldn't keep pitching anymore, and he's someone that is trying to rehab his way back right now. He's supposed to start throwing here relatively shortly, so he may be able to factor for this team at some point. But without Eric Lauer, this thing could have cracked. And he's been tremendously important, and he's been great. Like, he's a guy who's absolutely deserves consideration for a playoff start too. And do you want a lefty in there? How do you want to play that out? I think the Blue Jays are in a spot right now where they've got a lot of good decisions to make, a lot of good problems to have from a starting pitching standpoint. But I think one thing worth keeping an eye on with him is that this is the most innings he's thrown since 22 with Milwaukee. So it's been a while since he's gotten to triple digits, and so. What does that do for him as he gets towards the end of August into September? Is he still as sharp? If he is, then that's going to be certainly a good situation for the Blue Jays.
All right. So we have a thing on FT. You got to make your bed before you come on. If you have two beds, which by the way, party foul, the fact you have two beds, but neither bed is made. So do you sleep in both beds? How do you choose which bed to sleep in?
So legitimately, these beds are made. This was the way that they were made. They've just got like a partial fold there. One of them's a little rougher than the other because I was working on it, but yeah, this is it is made. I'll endeavor next time to clean it up for you guys.
Okay, thank
AJ's
you.
really
By the way, where's
strict.
Manoah? Where's Manoah? Is he rehabbing? Where is Alek Manoah?
Yeah, so he should be next outing in Double A. That was still being finalized, so I believe the next rehab outing is going to be in Double A. And so, he could enter into this mix too. It's interesting because I was talking to Robbie Ray during the All-Star game, and he's still in touch with Alek Manoah, friends from their time in Toronto, and they were talking about their experiences returning from Tommy John. And one thing that Robbie Ray said, and they're obviously different pitchers, but Manoah is more Robbie Ray-ish than he is Shane Bieber-ish, and that when you come back, you feel different, and some days the ball comes out really well, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, and then you get on the mound and like you have no idea what's happening, and everything feels right, but all the results are wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just part of the process. And maybe it's a little bit different for Bieber because he's more of a finesse guy. Manoa would be more akin to a power guy than a finesse guy like Ray. You know, what happens? You know, will Alek Manoah have those type of hiccups? He hasn't so far, which is certainly good. But yeah, when I mentioned the Blue Jays are going to have some tough decisions to make, you know, Manoah can certainly factor into those difficult decisions that lay ahead for the Blue Jays.
Oh, I hope we get Alek Manoah's super reliever return, and he's just, huffing and puffing on the mound, doing his best Lance Lynn impression.
Oh man, I would like to see that. He'd be fun to see in the back end in the playoffs. That's for sure. Especially if he's not stretched out enough, man. That might be the perfect little play for him down the stretch and help the team, and then be ready to go into. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And it would be a bit of an adjustment for the Blue Jays too, because they typically haven't done that with starters, like use them as relievers coming out of Tommy John. But you know, maybe like Manoah's mentality would definitely play in that kind of environment. But you know, physically, is that the right thing for him? I think that to me is the obvious question. But if like physically they can make it work, you know, maybe that's another way to bolster the bullpen as you're getting into the home stretch here.